Welcome to The Inspired Creative, the podcast for people who need a little help getting inspired or staying motivated to explore their creative side. My name is Paula Casill, and today I am so happy to be joined by one of my very best friends in the entire world, Ashley Phanor. Say hi, Ashley.
Hey, guys.
Ashley and I have been friends for, I guess it feels like forever, but it's only been, 4 or 5 years?
Only, unfortunately, but longer.
Longer in spirit, I think, definitely. Mm-hmm. And Ashley and I have a very similar personality, very similar backgrounds in certain ways, and we're both people who wouldn't necessarily describe ourselves as creative people.
No.
In fact,
not at all.
When I first started coming up with the idea of this podcast, Ashley was one of the first people I thought of, because although she would say she's not a creative person, she does so many creative things. But we're surrounded every day by people who are very actively involved in the arts. In fact, in the background, you might actually hear Ashley's roommate warming up. She's a singer and she's warming up her vocals right now.
Amazing.
So if you hear a little bit of something high-pitched back there, we apologize. That's just her getting ready for tonight's performance. But we're constantly around singers and actors and dancers and musicians and artists, photographers, and really incredible artistic people. And frankly, it can be a little intimidating sometimes.
Oh, yeah. When I first realized that I was surrounded by all these creative, it's when we were out somewhere and we were introducing ourselves, and it was, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm an actress. Hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm a blogger. Hi, I'm so-and-so and I work in fashion. And I was like, hi, I'm Ashley. ... You know, like, I don't do any of that at all.
Yeah, it's a little scary because you work in, essentially marketing, right?
Yeah, I started my career in PR, had like odd jobs in between, and now I've been working in sports it's going on 3 years, so.
Yeah, and I'm in insurance, which is perhaps the most boring thing in the world. But the fact that we don't have creative careers doesn't mean that we can't be creative people. And that leads me right into our quote for the week, which is by Vincent van Gogh, who's obviously one of the most famous world-renowned artists of all time. And he said, if you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. And I think it's really interesting that it's coming from someone like Van Gogh, because we think of him as a prolific painter. But the truth of the matter is he was one of the most unsuccessful people in his artistic field during his lifetime that you can imagine. He failed and failed and failed. I think he sold one painting in his lifetime. And that really brings me to a point where I start to think about, what does it mean to be creative, and how do we find ways to go about being creative even if we don't have, let's say, a successful creative career or desire to go into a creative career? How do we find outlets for our creative impulse? I think one of the easiest things we can talk about today is getting involved in something that maybe we've never done before. Because if that voice inside your head says, yeah, I can't paint, most of us would settle for never painting, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I can't paint.
I do not paint.
I paint at paint nights.
I don't even do that.
That's as far as I go, though. I'm like, if it's paint by numbers and you give me very explicit instructions, I will gladly try it. If I'm on my own, I feel completely lost and I don't know what to do. But I think if there's a voice inside your head that says, hey, you can't do it, but there's another voice that wants to do it, well, then we have to figure out the way to balance those two out so we can explore the things that we've never done before. And I think you're the perfect person to talk to about this, because we have a lot of shared experiences for those of you who don't know, Ashley and I know each other because we go to church together. Just a quick plug for the church. We're called the Rocks Worldwide, and there's churches here in New York and in Florida and Italy and France and literally countries all over the world. And it's a really warm, supportive, and incredible environment, and it's a great place for people who have passions, because they're very focused on helping people achieve the greatness that's inside of them.
Yeah, I think how we both ended up doing something creative, even though we're not creative people, is because we're in an environment where they promote doing something that you've always wanted to do, but maybe didn't have the resources, or you didn't think you could. We have this amazing singer, Erica. She's in the band. She's an opera singer, and she does voice lessons, and her voice is unreal.
Yeah.
And she wants anyone and everyone to come to her classes because she says, if you can talk, you can sing. So it gives that environment. It's a safe place to learn, a safe place to explore. I love another one of our singers, Pastor Sandra. She always talks about how she was not a singer, and she had someone that she was ministering to who was an opera singer, and they wanted her to learn and to be nice. She was like, okay, I'm not a singer. And now she's amazing. This person who said she's not a singer is one of our lead worship leaders now.
And she really does have an incredible voice, an incredible gift. And it's kind of scary to think that that might have gotten hidden away because she just thought that it was something that she couldn't do.
Yeah.
And I think we've both had experiences of having to step outside of the box, so to speak, and look for ways to do things that we didn't feel qualified.
Definitely.
Now, I know for you, one of the scariest things you've ever had to do is you had to learn to play the drums.
Yeah.
And when I say had to, I don't mean that someone put a gun to your head and forced you, obviously.
Not at all.
What led you to want to play the drums? Because you wouldn't necessarily describe yourself as a musical person, would you?
No, I played the violin in 4th grade, and as an adult, my mom told me she hated when I practiced because I was so bad, and she had to listen to that.
That's amazing.
And I don't have a musical bone in my body, and I had no desire, no interest to learn any instrument. But like Paula said, we do have a band called Rocks Worldwide, and one of the cool things about our band is that we truly are worldwide. All the members come from all the branches of our church, so every branch has a band. I go to the Manhattan location, and our Manhattan location didn't have... I play the floor toms, and we didn't have anyone to play that, and that's a really instrumental sound in our music. One of our worship leaders, Chica, who is in all of our songs, incorporates that instrument into all of our songs. So without it, it sounded a little flat or a little empty. Now, mind you, the Manhattan Band is amazing, but some instruments just bring another layer to the song. So I was listening to it, and it was amazing, and you know, the Spirit of God was still there. People were moved. But in the back of my mind for maybe, I don't even know, 6-8 months, it was, and mind you, the Manhattan branch is known as the performing arts branch. Everyone there is a creative, and no one did it. And I was so confused. as to why no one was bringing up the floor. Like, someone here has to know how to do this. And finally, I went up to the pastor and asked, no one is doing this. Do you want me to? I guess I could learn. I don't know.
Now, I'm going to interject here and say I can personally attest to the fact that we had these conversations for weeks and weeks and weeks leading up to you asking.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, somebody needs to play the floor tom. Somebody needs to learn to play the drums. I was like, well, you should do it. And you're like, but I don't know how. I was like, well, you can learn. And you're like, but I don't know how. And we had that conversation back and forth for ages.
Yeah. So long. She's not joking. I'm not trying to play it up. I'm like, oh yeah, I asked and I just did it and I picked it up. No, this was an internal battle.
Yeah.
That Paula had to deal with. And even after I asked, I probably didn't ask Chica to teach me for another couple of weeks.
Wow.
Right. I mean, this was truly, when I say months in the making, I'm not exaggerating when I say 6 months before I actually picked up drumsticks. And when I finally did it, when I tell you I was so bad, please understand I'm not exaggerating. It was, I didn't realize how complicated that instrument was because it's such a powerful sound. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how complicated and how sensitive that instrument was until you're thinking you just bang on it. No. You know, and to be fair to all my musicians out there, I don't read music. I literally learn by hearing. So I have nothing.
You have no technical prowess to pull from.
Or words. I have nothing for you. I have nothing. Till this day, I have nothing for you except that I sucked. And I wanted to quit so many times. I remember the first time I had to play because I would go to practice for a couple weeks and finally they said you have to play. And I mean, I must have done boom, boom, boom to the song, and it was still bad. I did boom, 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 and I was still sweating. I did boom, 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 and I almost cried when I got off the stage. It
can be terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. And once it's public, there's one thing learning an instrument, learning a craft, being creative
behind
closed doors. But being in a band is very much a public experience.
Yeah.
And everyone is involved.
Yeah.
The audience is involved, the choir's involved, the singers are involved. It literally, like, all hearts are united in this moment. And I was like, I'm that person who's going to throw everything off. That is me. I can't do this.
And yet, how long have you been playing the drums now for?
I guess we're hitting 1.5 years.
Wow. So 18 months.
Yeah.
And when we first agreed to talk about this, it took a little persuading because Ashley didn't want to talk about it. But I promised that I would give her the opportunity to say that she's still not very good. So feel free, if you'd like, to say I'm still not very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm still not very good.
But you're doing it consistently and you're getting better every time. And I think that one of the best lessons that we can learn from this type of experience, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, is that even when it's really scary to start something, and even when it's terrifying to have to go out and do that thing, that feeling of horror doesn't last forever. I don't want to talk about myself too much, but I had a very similar experience because I play the piano at the church in Long Island, and I am not a piano player. In fact, I could sort of bang out chords on a keyboard when I was 12. My mother is a musician and a singer and incredibly creative and very talented, and she taught herself every instrument known to man. And so when I was 12 or 13, she taught me the basics of how to play on the piano, and I played for like 6 months until I got bored, and then I stopped. I don't read sheet music. I can, bang out chords, and well, I could, and then I stopped for close to 20 years. And they didn't have a piano player at the church in Long Island, and one day they asked me to try. And it was horrifying. And I didn't get 6 months. See, you were really, really blessed. You got a 6-month learning curve. I got 2 weeks. I went to 2 weeks worth of rehearsals, and I learned one song, and I was the only instrument at the time. They had amazing percussionists, very professional musicians, and incredible singers, and at that time, no instruments whatsoever. This was years ago, and I was literally the only instrument, and we went up on a Sunday morning to play the song, and it was a big deal because we had never done live music before, and I froze. And I panicked. And I'm not a stage fright person. I love talking to people. I love getting up on stages. I have no issue with that. I discovered what stage fright felt like that day. And the adrenaline ran through my body, and I literally couldn't think long enough to remember what chords I was supposed to play, much less how to form them with my fingers. And everyone was looking at me and waiting for me to start the song. And I tried, and it was not right, and I stopped. And then I tried again, and it was not right, and I had to stop. And then I tried again, and it just got worse. And finally, the other people in the band figured out what was going on, and they just started without me. And I turned the volume all the way down to 0, and I mimed playing, even though it was very clear that there was no music coming out of this piano because it was the only instrument. So everyone was very aware of the fact that I was faking my way through this as I turned bright red and tried not to cry on stage until about 3/4 of the way through the song, when I figured out what I was supposed to be doing, and I turned my volume up to about 2 for the rest of the song. And as soon as it was done, I basically ran off stage and went into the back and tried really hard not to cry because I had something else I had to do right after that. But I remember having a conversation with somebody, and they were trying to encourage me, and they were trying to oh no, you did great, you did beautiful. And in that moment, I didn't need that per se. And I remember saying, no, I did terrible. It was bad. It was awful. That was the worst it could possibly be. And they had that that look of panic, like, how do you contradict that? I said, don't worry, I'm not going to quit. I'm still going to do it. But that was really bad. and it can't ever be like that again. And I think going through the worst of it made it easier the next time because it couldn't possibly get worse than that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that giving ourselves permission to be a little scared and maybe suck a little at the beginning is a very important thing, because if you're anything like me, and I don't know, maybe like you as well, I tend to prefer to do things that I'm really good at.
Right. And we're too old to be sucking at things.
Yeah, because we're not 12 anymore. We're not 20
it's
anymore.
It's cute when you're in middle school and high school.
Oh, yeah. My favorite thing is children's choirs, because they don't even have to know the songs. They can just get up there, and it's adorable no matter what. If I were to do that, it would be humiliating.
But that's so funny, because you're never too old to suck at things. In fact, I think when you suck at something and you try, that's so inspiring. Not to say we're inspiring. No, I'm talking about other people who I know who have tried some really hard things and have done it. That's inspiring. It's because you see a kind of vulnerability in them. And when you know they had a bad performance, when you know something didn't go right, when you know they could have done better, when you know they were really scared and they tried something for the first time, and you see them do it, and then you see them come back and do it, and then you see them come back and do it. I think that's what it was so hard for me. In fact, I know, was just this feeling of insecurity and this feeling of everyone. I was exposed. There's nowhere to hide. I'm on a stage. Like you can hear it. You can feel it.
But you got through it.
I got through it. You know, I can get through a song. I'm constantly reminded to stay humble, because whenever I think I know a song, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need practice. I know the song. I tell you, it could be the easiest song I've done 1,000 times. And the second I'm like, I can do this.
All of a sudden.
Just kidding.
It goes a little sideways. But the fact that you still come back to it week after week is something that I think people need to hear. Not because it's you and you're spectacular and amazing, although I personally happen to think that you're spectacular and amazing.
No.
And definitely not me, because I'm still not spectacular or amazing at anything. But having the I guess the character to do something that isn't easy, that doesn't come naturally to you, to go in a very vulnerable place and do something that is creatively challenging is an important part of life. And we can't close ourselves off to that, because who knows what's inside you? You know, who knows what gifts or talents or creative abilities you have that you might not even know about because you've never tried it. You know, Ashley, in 10 years, 15 years, you might be the best drummer in the world. And I will be the person standing on the sidelines backstage like, I remember when she first started. She's already saying no, but that's okay.
Happen.
Because honestly, Vincent van Gogh was not appreciated until after he died. And who knows what you're going to create, who knows what you're going to do, who knows what you're going to build that maybe isn't appreciated in the moment. Maybe you don't even appreciate it. Maybe you're filled with self-doubt. Maybe you have that little voice in your head saying you can't paint, or you can't cook, or you can't dance, or you can't play that instrument. But if we listen to that voice and we give way to that, then we're defeated before we even start. And I think getting up and starting and allowing yourself the room to learn, to be completely in over your head, and to grow anyway, and to try anyway, and to keep swimming anyway is the only way to find success. And if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume that you have at least the tiniest spark of desire to do something creative with your life. And maybe you're one of those people who we look up to and we admire, who's pursuing creative, artistic and incredible things in your career, and that's what you want to do with your entire life. And if so, I hope that this inspires you. These two silly little girls sitting here talking about how we can't play an instrument, or we can't write a book, or we can't do this, or we can't do that, but we're willing to try. It all begins when we try. And I think that that's probably my biggest takeaway from this, is that if you don't try, you'll never succeed. But if you try, eventually that little voice in your head has to go away. And eventually you have to make progress. And even if that progress doesn't lead you to Carnegie Hall.
Or if it does.
and even if it does lead you to Carnegie Hall, it all begins in the same place, and you never know where you're going to end up. And that seems like a really good button to end on. So I think we should probably end this podcast by, let me ask you this. Do you have any takeaways, Ashley? What would you take away from this conversation and carry with you into the new year?
Great question. So I think coming from two people who really hate failing.
Yes.
Trying something new, being vulnerable, especially so publicly, that since we were able to try something new and not fail, maybe failed at the beginning, maybe we're definitely not at the potential that we could be or that we will be, but that we're doing it. And the world did not burn down.
Yeah.
It wasn't the end of the world.
It wasn't a tragedy.
And it is relieving to know that we can do this, that there is an avenue, there's something untapped within us that we're able to do. And it kind of shows us how much more we can do as people when we push ourselves, when we are uncomfortable, when you're vulnerable.
Yeah. It's really incredible to consider that this is the same process that everyone goes through. Everyone stinks at the beginning. No matter whether you are an amateur or professional, the best in the world, everybody had to start at square one. And it's okay not to be great. And it's okay to be a little scared. And it's okay to try something that's completely new, because if you only stick to what you know, you're never going to go anywhere. So Ashley, what are you going to try new in 2019? Well, I got you podcasting, so that's one thing.
I am definitely podcasting right now, which is something completely new. Did not expect that. I think I'm going to try to be more vulnerable and see where that leads me. You know? Does that lead me into a new instrument? Does that lead me into a new avenue, to a new creative field? Does it lead me into a new mission? What does that mean for me to be more vulnerable? Because the only way I can do that is to try something new, to be more open.
Yeah.
I don't have anything specific, but it'll come along.
Yeah. We'll have to catch up a little later on in the year and see how things are going.
Maybe. We'll see.
Awesome.
We'll see what new things are on the horizon.
Well, thank you so much for doing this with me, Ashley. I know that it wasn't something you were super keen on, but I think you did a great job, and I had a lot of fun talking to you today.
Yes. Paula, you know, I always love talking to you. It's always a good chat.
Yeah, and the fact that we're recorded is only a little bit weird, right?
Oh, you know, it wasn't as weird as I thought it'd be. It wasn't as non-creative public people, we're not used to this.
No, we're definitely not. It's definitely a learning curve, but I think we handled it okay. So if people want to follow you and keep track of all of the amazing things that you're doing or the not so amazing things that you're doing, where can they find you? What's the easiest place to see you?
Two things. One, on Instagram, social media. My Instagram is from Ash to you. So my name's Ashley, from ASH to you, YOU. The second thing is come see me perform.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
That'd be great.
Yep. At the Rock Church, Manhattan.
Yeah, you can get all of our church information if you're curious and you're in the area, or even if you're not in the area, because we literally are all over the world. You can check out the church at therockchurches.com.
Yep.
And it's got all of our service information. There's easy ways to contact us if you're curious about stuff in your area and you don't see anything, you want to get something started. Feel free to check us out. All of our music is up, and all that other stuff is all available on the website. And if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on Facebook at The Inspired Creative Pod. If you want to email me, I'd love to hear from you. It's theinspiredcreativepod@gmail.com, and I would love to get your feedback. Please feel free to leave a review. Let me know what you think on whatever podcast form you're listening to this on, whether it's Stitcher or iTunes or whatever. And feel free to share it around. If you know somebody else who is endeavoring to do something new and creative this year, or you've been having conversations with your coworkers or your friend or your sister or whoever about trying something new, maybe give them the podcast to listen to. Maybe it'll encourage them to get a little bit outside of their comfort zones too. Just like we did it. If we can do it, believe me, you can do it too.
Oh yeah.
So that's going to be it for today. Thank you again, Ashley, for joining me. And thank you all for listening. I really appreciate your support. And go out there and be creative. Let's make this world a better place.